And I know, as a now 40-something-year-old woman, that the earlier we can get you insured, the safer you're going to be from a financial perspective, because that's literally what happened to us. It gave us opportunity. It meant we were able to buy a home. It meant that we felt confident having a third child. It's opened up the world so that we have had more opportunity rather than feeling really pushed and really stretched. There's really not many women in financial advice, let alone women in insurance. And we need that to be higher because, frankly, we do a lot of the life and the caring and the unpaid labor. Typically, we focus on, in a heterosexual relationship, the man's income, and we focus on protecting that. We don't focus on the woman's income as much. Women are underserved and we are a level of forgotten, and all of that emotional and physical and mental labor has a dollar value to it. So the reality is that anything can happen to anyone at any time, right? So many people are underinsured because insurance is such a generally quite a boring topic. We don't want to think about our own demise. And so the challenge is that people push it to the back of their mind and they say, yeah, it's on the list, I'll deal with it. When most people look at insurances when something happens.
What does it take to be a financially empowered woman? And what can financially empowered women do together to change the world? A shocking statistic is that around 400,000 women in Australia are at risk of homelessness. And the cause of this is the lack of education about how to build a financial foundation, starting even before we first enter the workforce and well into our retirement years. My name's Dion Payne, and I'm the founder of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. I'm passionate about ending homelessness, and as part of that passion, I chose to look at the systemic barriers that are causing homelessness for women in the first place. The Financially Empowered Women podcast is designed to bring you the best experts from around the world to increase your financial know-how and give you practical and women-specific tips to overcome the challenges you might be facing, such as how to negotiate a better salary, demystifying super, or how to navigate a separation and ensure the assets are distributed fairly. My role is to provide you with the best information out there to change your trajectory and become a financially empowered woman, because you deserve it, and the world needs you more than ever to own your worth and help others to do the same.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. My name is Dion Payne, and I'm delighted to be here with Trish Gregory. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Trish. Trish is a carer to chickens and bees, mum of 3, and passionate CFP financial advisor. Trish has worked with clients from ages 18 to 90 years old. Trish has a master's in financial planning and a wide range of life experiences. She provides bespoke insurance financial advice, serving an ever-growing cohort of uninsured younger Australians. She helps them protect what matters most, their ability to earn an income and provide for them and their loved ones. Welcome, Trish.
Thank you. Very excited to be here and have a chat today, Dion.
Yeah, wonderful. I love in your bio that your chickens and bees have greater priority than your kids.
They're much more entertaining. I can put them on the internet all the time. Children, not so much. And to add to that, as of this last month, I'm now a mama of quail as well, including 12 quail babies that hatched last week.
That is so beautiful. And were the kids involved in the hatching process? Were they there to witness that as well?
They were. Although the babies, they were in an incubator this time. We've always had hens. When we've had chickens, the hens have always hatched them. So this is the first time we've had babies in an incubator, which means there's no protective mama hen, which meant that we've been able to handle them from, after 24 hours and get them used to us, which is just the best. But yeah, they pop out all at once and you go, oh, we have 2 babies. Oh my gosh, we have 10 babies. It's the best day ever. And it was on a weekend, which is even better.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that's fantastic. So, I mean, look, what attracted you to living a rural lifestyle, to having chickens, bees, quails, whatever else?
I've always liked animals to start with, and I definitely don't live rural. I'm in the suburbs in Canberra. So we have a bit of a backyard, but not much. I suppose not much depends on where you live and what is normal for your not much. So we have a pretty average Canberra backyard. And I have been on the journey of sustainability and on the journey of sort of zero net living, really trying to minimize my impact on the environment. And so chickens and bees and quail are sort of one step towards that. We did briefly try to do chicken for meat. That didn't work out particularly well. That was way too difficult. So I'm going to try quail for meat, and then they give us eggs, and then the bees give us honey, and they're good for the environment. And we had a dog, but we don't have a dog anymore. He got very old and passed away. And I find that right now, these sorts of animals are perfect for our lifestyle because they can be ignored. And you just, for a bit, if you need to go away for the weekend, you just need to make sure the food and the water is full. So it works well.
Yeah, perfect. I had chooks. Well, our family had chooks. Gosh, when my daughter was 4, so we're talking about 12 years ago, and we had them for a period of 3 years. And we had them in a backyard as well. So we had a little chook pen, and we'd move the chook pen around. And the chooks were great because we'd feed them and they would do their business, and then we'd move the pen, and then we'd be able to grow into what sort of the composted earth. And it was fantastic. It was such good fun. And I did try to, well, it was accidental actually. One of the chooks ended up being a rooster. We didn't know that when we picked them up. So I thought, okay, well, we'll kill it. But I really wanted to give it a humane death, and I couldn't do it. I tried very hard.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But in the end, it was my father-in-law that did it, thank goodness. But then I realised that the meat didn't taste that great either. So I thought maybe I'll stick to the chicken for the butchers. But definitely the eggs were fantastic.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wonderful. So moving from chickens and bees and quails, you mentioned when we spoke previously that you were a stay-at-home mum, and then you and your partner switched roles. Now, I believe there's an interesting story behind that, and I'd love you to share that with the audience.
Oh, absolutely. So when we had our first child, all planned, he's now about to turn 14, so it's a little while ago, I had planned to be the stay-at-home parent because my mother was the stay-at-home parent and then the primary parent once she sort of went back to employment. That was a really important value for me to have for my children. I was very against childcare to start with until my partner forced me to send our 3-year-old at the time to childcare because I was pregnant with our second. And then I realized how great it was. So I've always wanted someone to be home with the kids, which I assumed would be me. Right? My partner was in the military, which means we were following him around the world, or Australia. And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll just stay at home until the kids are older and then I'll get a job. I didn't have a career at that point. I just had a job. So it wasn't particularly hard to leave it behind. However, when our son was 4 and our daughter was 1, my partner had been injured at that point. He had his second spinal surgery. Nothing dramatic, just, due to work sort of injuries. But that meant that he was medically discharged from the military. So they said, thanks very much, off you go. We don't want you anymore. You're a bit too broken. And so we sort of spent a bit of time saying, well, what are we going to do next? And we decided that we'd just swap. So I would become the employed parent and he would become the stay-at-home parent. He ended up getting sort of like an income protection payment, but from the military, it's a bit of a pension. Not enough for us to live off, but certainly helps. And which meant that he was essentially getting paid to be the stay-at-home parent, which was perfect. So it gave me the opportunity to start a new career in financial services. And we decided on financial services because I was sort of umming and ahhing about what I wanted to do for work. And I thought, well, I can go back and work at a university because I've worked at universities before. I know the drill. I'd worked with international students, right? Like it would be fairly easy for me, and we were moving very close to a university. So I was confident I could get that. But that did not interest me. I was sort of looking at my 4-year-old and my 1-year-old thinking, why would I leave work? Why would I go to work for something that's not going to fill me up and leave my babies behind? No. So my partner, he said, well, you talk about money a lot, Trish. So can you please go and do something with money so you can stop talking to me about money because I don't care. Like it's not my vibe, not my forte. I was like, all right, cool. So being the ever practical, frugal gal that I am, I discovered that once we had an address in Melbourne, I could apply to, I think it was the Monarch Institute, for my diploma of financial planning, and I would get a discount because the Victorian government gave a discount. I waited, did my diploma of financial planning, jumped into the advanced diploma, fell into my first financial planning job, became a financial planner very quickly. This is before the rules changed and you had to have a degree, and have loved it ever since.
We see the headlines, the division, the ego, the chaos. It's enough to make you want to check out. But financial empowerment isn't just about your bank balance. It's the choice to invest into building a better world when the current one seems broken. You have the power to decide where your capital lives. At Women for Homes, our mission is to mobilise 1 million women to invest $5,000 to end homelessness by 2030, whilst being financially empowered along the way. It's a practical and tangible way to turn overwhelm into action. Visit www.women4homes.com. That's women4homes.com. Let's invest to create the world that we want to see. That's really cool. That's a really cool story. And lots of things in that. Just the, switching, being able to make that switch from you being the stay-at-home parent to your husband being the stay-at-home parent, him being able to be paid in a way for that role. That's something that's fairly uncommon for whoever decides to stay home with the children, that they get paid. And I wonder if that actually feeds into what you're seeing with people being either uninsured or underinsured.
Yeah, absolutely. It terrifies me because we see our situation as, although he went through a lot of pain, like there were mental and physical struggles, frankly, for both of us in that. And we had 1 year, first year, he left the military. It was really, really, really hard on both of us. And so, there's been levels of, what's the word I'm looking for, of growth and recovery. But I'm so thankful that he was in the military, although, that breaks back, but so thankful that he was in the military because it meant that they had that sort of automatic insurance to a degree, because his first injury was when he was 25. And now I don't know many people who are 25 years old who have comprehensive insurance, but I know plenty of people who are 25 and have had injuries, whether they're injuries that last 10 years or whether they're short-term injuries. And I know, as a now 40-something-year-old woman, that the earlier we can get you insured, the safer you're going to be from a financial perspective, because that's literally what happened to us. It gave me the opportunity to become a financial planner. Because I was earning, at one point, I was earning zero. It was a bit of a dodgy situation with commission-only payment. Got out of that quickly, but I was literally earning $0 to start with, and we could do that because he had effectively his insurance paying out. Now, he wasn't capable of working. The kids were going to childcare and school and things like that, but he was the primary parent and able to pick people up from school and able to manage school holidays, which was perfect. So it gave us opportunity. It meant we were able to buy a home. It meant that we felt confident having a third child and then uprooting our life back to Canberra and buying a home here in Canberra, right? It's opened up the world so that we have had more opportunity rather than feeling really pushed and really stretched, or having to force him to go back to work, to employment, to do something just to get money. What it's actually allowed him to do is to take a good amount of time to rest and recover and focus on family and focus on himself and try out his interests. And as it turns out now, he's just finished his law degree and he's about to start as a graduate lawyer.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that because your husband had some insurance, it gave you choices, and you didn't have to work to get money in. I mean, obviously there was a financial need, but it just gave you some flexibility to do things that you were more passionate about, rather than getting back into work, getting back into the grind and just going, my life sucks because I'm not actually doing what I want to do.
Exactly. That's right. It gave us opportunity. And we consider this to be our very fortunate universal basic income. And we think, gosh, wouldn't it be great if there was a universal basic income? Because it just takes that level of pressure off. And yes, we have cost of living pressures like everyone else. You know, we have a mortgage, we have 3 kids. My gosh, we realized the other day that we have something on with the kids every single night of the week, which starts costing a lot of money and take up a lot of your time. But it just takes that extra level of stress away, because we know we have that baseline money that is safety and security, which is so important, especially for women. My gosh, I know it's his sort of basic income, but it's our, family income. And it has meant that we have been able to make decisions out of strength, not out of fear or, intense need.
Yeah. Which is such a beautiful position to be in. I'm really curious that you did your diploma in financial planning. You then worked for a financial planning firm. What made you specialize in insurance? Was it the experience that you had being insured and you thought this is a good idea, or was there something else?
There are a couple of reasons. So it's not a single situation. So number one, absolutely, I know how important insurance is, and I want to make sure everyone has it because I know the difference it's made in my life. And I know the difference that it could have made in other people's lives that I know, unfortunately, who didn't have appropriate insurance. So that's number one. Then number two is I had been working as a holistic financial advisor for 8 years and was feeling quite the life strain from doing holistic advice. Like, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the deep conversations. I love talking to millennials about, their budget and their spending habits and fixing up their financial situation and helping them buy homes and helping them do IVF and helping them have babies, and obviously from a financial perspective, and, helping them with life. But I was getting burnt out and life was actually becoming quite difficult. And for anyone who's experienced burnout, you may have been like me, where you kind of just keep going and keep going and keep pushing. And then you hit a point where you just need to take care of yourself and you need to stop what you're doing. And unfortunately, I hit that point. And so when I was thinking about what am I going to do next, this was at the end of 2024, one of the ladies that I know in Canberra, she said, I hear you're looking for your next adventure. Why not try insurance only? And I said, I hadn't really thought about insurance only because I love holistic advice. And she said, look, give it a try. I'm happy to hire you and we can see how it goes. I reckon you won't regret it. I reckon you'll love it more than you think you will. And I thought, well, yeah, there's not enough financial advisors who are only doing insurance. Niching, I've always believed that niching was the way to go. So just focusing on one thing and doing it really, really well. I think lawyers do this really well, whereas financial advisors are still quite a lot more broad, a lot of us. So I certainly believe in niching, and I thought, well, there's also a market for it because there's not many financial advisors doing insurance only. Well, there's also not going to be much competition. which is beneficial for me. And then to add on to that, there's really not many women in financial advice, let alone women in insurance. And I want to make sure the women aren't forgotten about, because it's only about 20% of the insured population. Like when we look at the insurance companies, only about 20% are women. And we need that to be higher because, frankly, we do a lot of the life and the caring and the unpaid labor. And I know that typically in financial advice, and I'm sure it's changed over time, but typically I would see, especially when I was being trained, is we focus on, in a heterosexual relationship, the man's income, and we focus on protecting that. We don't focus on the woman's income as much. We say, well, if she couldn't work, she'd be fine on just his income, which is not ideal, because I have seen so many situations where then there's been a divorce. And then the woman goes, oh my God, I don't have any insurance, and I have the majority responsibility of the kids. And now I have some medical issues, so I can't get the same insurance that I had. So that was really, really important to me. And my LinkedIn says feminist insurance advisor. And I really, like, that's the goal, is focusing on, like, there's enough women there for me to be able to help. I don't need to go out and help the men specifically. Like, they come anyway, but I really want to try and pitch myself to women, because we are underserved and we are a level of forgotten, and we do undervalue ourselves, and society does undervalue what we give to society and to a family, and all of that emotional and physical and mental labor has a dollar value to it.
100%. And I saw a study by a large insurance company in the US, and they worked out that if all of the roles that a parent, and in this case mostly women, if all of the roles that they performed as stay-at-home parents were outsourced and added up, then it would be I think it was a $200,000 a year role. So there's definitely a dollar value to it.
Exactly. There, you can absolutely put a dollar value to all the things that you do. It's just that as a society, we say, oh, the woman will do it. Oh, the woman will do it. It's fine. Another reason is we find, like in our firm, that if someone is totally and permanently disabled and needs a decent amount of care, we actually find that the other person ends up, because they're still employed and still working, the other person can often end up with carer burnout, which means they're no longer able to do their job, and they're also no longer able to care for their partner. So whilst he might have his income protection sorted, if then she can't work and can't take care of the partner, we need both income protection policies coming in to make sure that the whole family's okay.
Yeah. It reminds me of, so I saw my mum at Christmas time, which was beautiful. I got to spend time with my mum. And she was saying that when she was looking after my nan, who died a few years back of dementia, so in her last few years, my mum was her primary carer. And there were times that my nan, bless her cotton socks, would hide my mum's keys to prevent her from going to work. So then my mum would turn up at work, and she was a nurse, and she'd turn up at work and it would be late. Amazingly, she had some very supportive team leaders that worked with her and she worked for, that were able to say, yes, we understand, and don't worry about it. But I get that. I really understand what you're saying, because if for whatever reason somebody was in a similar situation, and they couldn't get to work, or they have the burnout, as you mentioned, because they're actually taking on two, in caring for somebody, that's a full-time role in and of itself. And we're not meant to do really more than one full-time role, I don't believe. So
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take a bit of a tangent, actually, because it's something that I have been thinking about a lot, and I think based on what you shared with us about sustainability and your steps in your life to be more sustainable in what you do. I'm really curious about the impact of insurance and being underinsured in a time where we're getting way more extreme climatic conditions. So, cyclones, bushfires, that sort of thing. What are you seeing in the industry around that? And what advice do you have for people to make sure that they are fully insured for those kinds of events?
So the reality is that anything can happen to anyone at any time, right? We walk out the door, we can be hit by a bus. We are thinking we're driving through floodwaters that are not particularly high, and then, we can get swept away. All of these things are a reality. A brick can fall from a construction site the wrong way and get us on the head. So I find that so many people are underinsured because insurance is such a generally quite a boring topic. We don't want to think about our own demise or our own infallibility, right? Especially when we're young. We are invincible when we're young. At least we believe that. And then as we age and our body starts to go a little bit, we realize, oh no, actually this aging thing is real. Personal experience. And so the challenge is that people push it to the back of their mind and they say, yeah, it's on the list, I'll deal with it. And when most people look at insurances is when something happens and then they go, oh dear, what do I have? What insurance do I have? Or something happens to someone close to them and then it sort of jolts them. And that can be true of all the insurances. I mean, everyone seems to insure your car, right? It's just an expectation that you will insure your car, at least for third-party property damage. So if you hit someone, their very expensive Lamborghini can be covered and it's not coming out of your pocket, right? We insure our houses, like that tends to be something, or our contents. Some people will roll the dice on the contents insurance because they're like, well, if I lose everything, I'll just restart from scratch and get everything for free off Facebook Marketplace, right? But what is not common is people saying, I need to protect my most important asset. And that is your ability to earn your income, or your ability to be able to care and manage the life so that the person who's earning the income in your family can continue to do that. And when we think about the more wild world that we're living in, whether it's weather events or whether it's economic troubles, or whether it's like I had the burnout because you're pushing too hard to try and achieve, or your employer is pushing you too hard, we need to try and protect against what we can protect against. So most people will tend to say, I have insurance in my super, so I don't need to worry about it. But the reality is, I will 99.9% guarantee you that you are underinsured if that is the only insurance you have, is the insurance within superannuation. So what we're finding is, no, I've lost my train of thought. Let's ignore that bit. So when we're thinking about people being underinsured and how they can think about it in the context of the current wild world that we live in, the way I want people to think about it is, what happens if? And if we can think about this terrible scenario once and just put your mind to it, it's the same as doing your wills, right? We don't expect to use our wills until we're very, very, very old. The reality is some people need them earlier, but ideally we don't, but we have them set up. It's the same thing with insurance. Ideally we have them set up, and then we know that if something happens, we'll be okay. And if nothing happens, fantastic, we're staying healthy. It's great. So what I would say to people is, if the cost of living is just biting you at the moment, and you're looking at all of your insurances, you're looking at your private health insurance, your car insurance, your home or contents insurance, income protection and your total and permanent disability, your life insurance, your trauma insurance should be one of those that you look at. And if the cost of living is really crunching you at the moment, there is an opportunity for either putting most of it inside superannuation so that you can deal with that at a later point. You have to acknowledge that it affects your superannuation balance, but maybe protecting your income right now, and then in a couple of years when your income increases, throwing more money into super to compensate perhaps. Or if you have an insurance policy already and it may be the time to review, much like your mortgage, a good thing to review every couple of years, because the providers out there are every now and then providing discounts, or they're getting better with their pricing structures. And we do find that insurance, much like banks and loans, all those sorts of things, you do get penalized for not shopping around every couple of years. There is more complexity because it does relate to your health, but I will definitely say that I do find a lot of times, almost every single time, if people were to be appropriately insured in an industry super fund, which is where the default insurance tends to be if you have some, if you were appropriately insured in your industry super fund, it tends to be, probably like 90% of the time, it's actually more expensive than getting a fully underwritten retail policy that is of a much higher quality.
Wow. Well, that's a nugget that I wasn't aware of.
The reason people think that industry super fund insurance is so cheap is because they are insured for a very little amount. So therefore it's cheap. Whereas if you actually get the insurance that you need, I've seen it like a couple of $1,000s more expensive if we were to just increase someone's insurance inside an industry super fund compared to getting a good quality retail fund, good quality retail insurance outside.
I mean, you threw quite a few terms around in that, and I don't know what they mean, but TPD and life insurance, and but I think because of all of these different categories, it is often something that people just go, too confusing, leave it till later. So for somebody listening to this and they think, okay, yeah, I better get my together, and what would be a good next step for them?
So there's kind of two next steps. Number one is know what you have. And so that means logging onto your super account or checking your bank accounts if there's like a direct debit that you don't know. Maybe you have insurance and you forgot about it, or your parents set one up, or your partner set one up. But logging onto your super account and clicking through until you can find the insurance tab and seeing what insurance you have. There's also some really great education on all the superannuation providers' website. We'll be able to explain to you what insurance is and what insurance you have. So education is number one, figuring out what you have. And then the second thing would be booking in a time with an insurance specialist like myself or a financial advisor, or maybe setting up a girls' night and saying, all right, everyone, we're coming together and we're going to all talk about our insurance tonight. We're going to have a few drinks. We're going to learn it together. And that's probably a really lovely way to do it. But if you want to have a chat with an insurance specialist, most, if not all of us, will have a initial meeting that won't cost anything. So at minimum, you can get some education, you can understand a bit more. And then if you do realize that you are perhaps underinsured or not appropriately insured, you can sort of take the bouncing ball along with that advisor. Now, advisors will range in cost from no cost and just taking commissions to a small cost and taking commissions, all the way through to charging you a good couple of $1,000, like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, but they don't take commissions. So it depends on what is going to be right for you in that scenario. So from just to explain the commissions, so it's much like you're getting a mortgage. The insurer pays the advisor a percentage. It's legislated by the government how much they're allowed to pay. So it's all consistent across the industry. So they pay the advisor for putting that insurance in place. And me, like I imagine most insurance advisors, we choose the policy that's best for our client. And then we take payment from that insurer.
Fantastic. Thank you for breaking that down, because often when I find for myself, when I don't understand how something works, it can be harder for me to make a decision because I'm like, well, how does the money flow? Who gets paid where? All of that. So
exactly, that's right.
It's really good to sort of have you clarify that. And of course, you provide a service and you need to get paid in some way. So, but it's always good to know how that works. So, you can make better, clearer decisions.
Absolutely.
Well, Trish, this has been a great session. I've never been somebody that's been very excited about insurance, let me tell you. But I really see the value in it, and I'm sure that a lot of people that are listening to this will also get that as well. And just want to say thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and good luck with the bees and the chickens and the quails.
Thank you very much. And if anyone wants to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Trish Gregory. Always happy to have a chat, always happy to demystify. And I also have a podcast called Money Talk, Real Talk, which is a podcast for midlife women talking about money and mindset, if you're interested in listening to both of our podcasts.
Yeah, beautiful.